And how's it kicking, my ninjas? This is Ajo Yujo here. And today I just felt like making this because, we're about a week and a half or so out from Nats. So I wanted to help some people who are going to be there. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to be in Nats. For all of you who are going to be there, I wish you the best of luck. And hopefully you do what I always set out to do, which is destroy the hopes and dreams from the guy you're sitting across the table from, because that's always, that's always my ambitions. But what the hell does this video even mean? Well, excuse me for a second. I'm gonna reposition a little bit here. Okay, so what am I even making this video about? Well, today I'm making a video about how to play around some situations that you're going to be put in. Now, I know like when people make the deck lists or when they talk about deck lists, you see on everybody's channels, oh, I played Dark Witch because I'm trying to not lose to Rivalry of the Warlords. And if you are, kind of Scott brand new to this deck, but you got an invite to Nats and you're like, man, I think Monarch's the best deck ever and I'm going to play Monarch, but I'm going to play this Dark Witch version because everybody else is doing it. All the cool kids are doing it. What the hell does that even mean? Play around, Rivalry of the Warlords. What does that even mean? So I know this looks like a lot of cards, and this is entirely 7 cards here, and this is a whole hand, and you're like, oh man, but I got to draw all 7 of these cards to not lose to Rivalry of the Warlords. The deck sucks. That's not a real winning situation. That's not entirely true. So I'm going to kind of myth bust this, guys, and show you exactly what the hell this even means. So let's get started with this. So in order to not die to Rivalry of the Warlords, you actually only need like these 2 cards. And I'm going to explain that right now. So, well, actually you need these 3. Sorry, I lied. So let's say you went for a Monarch play earlier in the game. Rivalry of the Warlords is obviously a trap, so they have to set it, right? I mean, that they can't just like go, I got your Rivalry, you lose. Even if they did it turn 1, let's say you went for like a Monarch play, like an Erebus or something, and you sent, obviously you're going to send these 2 to the graveyard first. And they rivalried you. So you had to send your Thessalos or whatnot to the graveyard, and then they went for the full 20, and like they just like sacrificed up a tribute summon stealth and just ran over your dude. And now you're like, oh shit, man, I'm screwed. Not actually. So here's how you're gonna approach the situation. And let's just say for all intents and purposes, you don't have any of this in your hand, right? But you do have a Brilliant Fusion. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna banish this from your graveyard, and you're going to tutor for 3 of these, right? Right. You could, if you already have the Aether in your hand, you can tutor for Tenacity in order to make this life quicker, but you're going to tutor for this, okay? Now you're going to activate, you're not going to activate the shit. You're going to activate Brilliant Fusion, and you're going to send these guys to the yard, summoning yourself a Seraphonite. Now, here's how you're going to approach the situation. You're now going to float this card back to your hand because Lazuli was sent to the graveyard off of a card effect. Disclaimer. You cannot pitch this card to Twin Twister and actually get your freaking Dark Witch back. That's cheating. This says sent to the, okay, Glare of Death. Sent to the graveyard by a card effect. I'm gonna get this at some point. At least I'm gonna try. Nope, it's not happening. Anyway, so it has to be sent to the graveyard for card effect. Basically, it works like Dark Worlds, to where you can't discard them for a cost and get something that would be broken. So you don't get like a break even or a +1 off of your Twin Twisters, guys. Don't be doing that shit. So now you get your Dark Witch. You're going to immediately now activate your Return of the Monarchs. And the reason why you don't want to activate this first is because you can't even summon your Seraphonite if you do that, because this does lock you out of your extra deck. That's a very novice play, so don't make that. Now, you're going to use Seraphonite summon first. This is very important, because if your Seraphonite's gone prior to you using it summoned, you just cheese your way out of your own summon. So, you're now going to sack for your Dark Witch. And if you have a Stormforth, this is not the time in which you want to use it. Trust me, I'm a doctor. You're now going to tutor for your Aether off of your return because you did tribute summon. This just requires you to tribute summon. That's it. So this is a tribute summon, obviously. Now, since this is a tribute summon monster, you're now going to sacrifice this. And remember, all of these cards are fairies, except for this guy here, Lazuli. You're going to sack this to summon your Aether. Aether is now going to trigger, and you're now going to, and I probably should have set this up prior. You're going to now basically you're gonna send anything in your. Oh my god, this is happening. Um, One shot, one kill. Let's do this. Where the hell? Okay, you're gonna now search for this guy, aka Aether, which is I have no idea why I couldn't just say Aether, but you're gonna search for Aether. Okay, my camera's all sideways and stuff now. But anyway, you're gonna now sack and search for Aether. You're gonna send cards to the graveyard so that way you can get this guy back. Usually you probably want to send a Pantheism here because you don't have like loops going with your Pantheisms yet, so with your little white, so you can get your Pantheisms back. And this, if you already had a Stormforce, this is where you're gonna set your Stormforce because this Aether is gonna return back to your hand, and now you can flip Stormforce, sack this in the Aether, and yeah, you're good to go. So what does this mean? This means you can just play the freaking game. So that's just a little taste of what you can do because you do have a pretty deep amount of fairies, and when you have an extra deck play, but you're under rivalry, but you're like usually you want to lock yourself under fairy, you can still summon Durandal, and this is why a lot of people you'll see people playing Tiras because Tiras is also a fairy, and it just gets out of Mask of Restriction and gets out of stuff like Rivalry of the Warlords. I just don't happen to own a Tiras, so that's one line of play. Now you can also make a line of play with warriors. What the hell does that mean? Well, let me show you. This guy being Kuraz. Now I know I passed this guy earlier. What the hell is his name? This guy, Red Layer. Haha. This guy. Now this one requires a teensy bit more setup, and it requires you to be a little later into the game. But it doesn't require this guy. You could just normal this, but do that at your own risk. So this is what this one requires. It requires these 4 cards. This is a more immediate out to the board. Now you can sub out any tribute fodder for Stormforce Other Monarchs. This we all know about. But come on, let's get real. You never actually have the out card when you're put into the bad situation, right? You never have the I drew my Monarch Stormforth and he cried. At least I don't. I am one of the unfortunate few who just don't draw the cards that they need when they need them. So let's say you had like a Beatrice play earlier and you put this guy in the graveyard, and this guy is also in the graveyard because you made this kind of play earlier, right? Now you have a few lines you can take here. One, you can banish this, special this. Do not do the whole summon a Squire because you're under rivalry, so you actually can't. And then if you got Return of the Monarchs on the board, you contribute this for this. You can float if you can get your Return that's banished from play, or a Tenacity that's banished, or a Pantheism that's banished, or any Monarch Spell and Trap that's banished, basically is what this is leading to here. If you need to push over something, it's probably going to need to be Domain, so you can just cram over something and just keep it moving. But basically, if you got Return on the board, just like you set up the other Aether play earlier, you can tutor for your Kuraz, and then now eventually you can sack this guy for Kuraz, and then now you can pop their Return, and you can pop your own Kuraz or pop some back row that you set, or like pop up anything else to just get a free draw off of it, and that more immediately outs the board, whereas the Aether line more puts you into being able to actually just play the game and start attacking and pushing for damage. And just basically, though this deck is it's EDM, it's Extra Deck Monarch, it's more as a combo based deck. The reality is it's still just a very good Monarch deck in the middle of this, and that's where its power comes from. That's where a lot of the people complain about it, and that's where a lot of the strength of the deck comes from, is that you can just take over the game by playing like a normal Monarch deck. You're just not focusing on locking them out and playing as a control deck. You're a good Monarch deck that also has an oopsie win condition. And some of the best decks of the history of the game has always had like an oopsie win condition. Just out of nowhere, you just spell Economics Dimension Fusion and then your opponent's dead because Demok loops, like that's always been some of the greatest strategies in history. And this deck I'm not comparing it to those decks by any means. Please don't read that out of this, but just the theory behind having like a mistakenly, like you can just kind of fumble your way into a win condition or an OTK. That's a lot of the strength and the power of this deck. So that's all for this portion of it. I'm gonna make some more segments to this. This is a part of my RTG series, The Road to Greatness. Just letting you guys know some of the intricacies and the ins and out plays, and just knowing how to approach certain scenarios, that's a big deal, especially when you're headed to such an event as the size of the North American qualifier, the North American World Championship qualifier. That's way too much just versus saying nationals. But that's about it for this video. So keep it kicking, my ninjas. Please, if you got any questions, comments, concerns, please drop them down below me. Leave a thumbs up. Subscribe for more content. Come on back to my channel and keep it kicking, my ninjas. This is Ijo Ujo. Peace.